Looking for a spring travel destination? Try the Treefort Music Fest coming to downtown Boise, Idaho, March 26th through the 30th. You can catch the full lineup of over 400 artists at treefortmusicfest.com/lineup. 5-day GA passes start at $366, but the prices are going up March 1, so grab them while you can. Other ticket types include front-of-the-line access, single-day full fest, main stage, single-day, and 4-day. Not to mention hotel packages and fort badges. Find your tickets now at treefortmusicfest.com/tickets. Clark County's camping ban went into effect this month, but with a wait list for housing that has thousands of names on it, where will they go? Today on CityCast Las Vegas, I sit down with Shalimar Cabrera. She's the National Director of Executive Leadership for U.S. Vets, and U.S. Vets has been running an innovative new housing program out of the Safari Motel on a funky part of Fremont Street. After 2 years, their funding is up for renewal. So how have they done? And could our city's vintage motels be the answer to reducing homelessness? It's Tuesday, February 18th. I'm David Figler, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. Shalimar, the Safari Motel was a vintage spot from back in the glory days of Las Vegas, located on Fremont Street, but now it's the site of a unique experiment addressing housing security in our community. Tell me about this project.
Yes, it was, in fact, a vintage motel, so much so that the sign that used to be on the motel, when we took it over to turn into housing, was moved to the Neon Museum. That's how vintage and historic this property is, so we're really honored to be a part of it. Currently, what we're operating there is 41 beds of bridge housing. And how this all got to be was an effort from the county to do something about the growing wait list of individuals, non-veterans, who are waiting for housing and have identified as homeless.
Oh, okay.
They first approached me right before the pandemic, actually, in January 2020, and said, we're trying to do something different for this problem, and we really want to talk to you about it. And so when they first approached me, it was actually to have us teach them more about our existing transitional housing program for veterans that we've operated here in Las Vegas since 2001, designed to wrap comprehensive services around them for a short period of time while helping them prepare to transition to permanent housing.
So tell me what those wraparound services mean or entail.
So those wraparound services start with first interacting with them, finding them where they are, and then getting them referred into our program. Once they're in our programs, then comprehensive services takes place right there in the facility. So, of course, first we meet their basic needs: clothing, hygiene, of course, the housing is providing the shelter, right? Take care of all of that. In addition, every client that comes into our program is assigned a case manager, helping them identify what's going to be the most appropriate track to have them leave successfully from our program to permanent housing and regain their independence.
Sure. Now, you had all this experience with veterans in doing this.
Exactly.
And then, as you mentioned, the county came to you and asked if you could help with short-term for non-veterans.
That's
What
right.
does short-term mean here?
Specifically, it means bridge housing is 90 days. So actually, the project we're talking about, we haven't named it yet, Betterment Community Project, is what is being operated there at the Safari Motel. And the BET in Betterment actually stands for Bridge, Employment, and Training. So what happens in the county, if you're a person experiencing homelessness, is that Clark County Social Service actually does an assessment of your needs and your current situation, and they can identify those who are the most vulnerable to those who are the least vulnerable. And we know that there is a certain portion of those individuals on the wait list that show that they don't actually have a high acuity or severe mental illness or high need, and just really need short-term support to get stable.
Oh,
and so
I
this
see.
was specifically to address that group.
Okay, so the subset of folks who you are basically able to help in maybe a quicker way. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
So the wait list being so long, and at the time when they approached me, it was like 2,300 individuals.
Yeah.
Then COVID happened. A few months after we started talking, everything went on pause because the world was trying to figure out what we were doing. So this is the county and us, ourselves. And then we resurfaced the conversation. By the time the height of COVID had happened, Now you can imagine nobody's working, right? Nobody's have access to benefits.
Yeah. Bigger strain on the systems.
The wait list had doubled.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Doubled. So we knew that we wanted to try and make the most impact for those who could, something that's first-time homelessness, ability to work, ability to maintain income, ability to maintain housing. Let's address that population in this project through short-term, that bridge housing, and then employment and training so that they can leave that program with income into their own housing.
Neat. Now, how did the Safari Motel, of all places it could be,
Right.
show up on everyone's radar?
Yeah. It was through, as they say, what's meant for you will not miss you. They were not originally in the schematic. During COVID in 2020, we had a different potential property that just did not line up correctly, and they backed out. And so we were already in it at this point, right? We were about to sign contracts with this landlord when they back out. And at that point, I'm so invested. So is the team. We're all doing all the planning, had for many months. So we really didn't want to abandon the project. So simultaneous to that, there had been some landlords and developers and apartment owners, different people from time to time still reach out because they know we have different housing complexes across the community. And there was one that worked with our other program, our families program, that reached out through one of our staff members here and said, if you guys are ever looking to expand to another location, we've taken ownership of this motel.
Oh, see, that's such a Vegas story, Shalimar.
Yeah.
Somebody's talking to somebody knows somebody, and all of a sudden now you got a property. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
I love this.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to do business? Like,
Right.
What, really? As a matter of fact, I am looking for somewhere to do it, and there's a lot of times that I've had to say, God, I wish I could do something in there. But this, project could not be possible without the county really getting innovative and finding new ways to make this happen. So they carved a piece of tax legislation, AB 309, to be specific to budget for this project. And as long as we could find the owner who provided the property, who would also provide the renovations, because if anybody who knows a Safari Motel prior to this, it was not ready for habitation, right?
Well, I mean, that's what I want to ask about because it doesn't really strike my brain right away, but I'm so intrigued by it. So I guess, first of all, what made the motel a good fit? And then we could get into the various challenges.
Yeah. Well, we knew first that we wanted to do it with a small sample size. Let's kind of pilot it, for lack of a better term, right? So it was just like the right size to buy into, which is about 41 to 50 beds. And the design of it, where it's courtyard style. So you literally stand in the middle of the property and see every door to every unit. Helps with a real therapeutic community. Everybody knows everybody who's coming and going.
Yeah, those old school motor lodges are just so cool for the day. And now here we are looking at this model helping out for a new purpose. I love that.
Yeah. We just really believe in that community aspect too. Like when we don't call ourselves a shelter, right? Sometimes people get that wrong because we're really asking individuals to really get engaged, become a part of the community. We operate what's called a therapeutic community, where all the clients get involved in different workstations. The staff are very involved and very engaged with the client. So that setup was real conducive for that, right? For a new community coming together and a small staff. It just was the right kind of deal to set it up where, and then the units were big enough where you could do 2 beds in a single or 2 doubles in a 2-bedroom. So it also gave us enough density for what we were trying to do.
What sort of promises have you made to yourself this year? Maybe get in better shape or eat healthier, save more money, travel somewhere new. What about discovering a new culture by learning a new language? With Babbel, you can do that in just a few weeks. I'm CityCast CEO David Plotz, and I'm having such a good time learning Spanish on Babbel this year. I'm taking a trip to Mexico City in the spring, and Babbel is giving me the Spanish foundation that's going to make my trip so much better. Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons, handcrafted by more than 200 language experts, get you to begin speaking your new language in 3 weeks, or at whatever pace you choose. And because conversing is the key to really understanding each other in a new language, Babbel is designed using practical, real-world conversations. And one way they do that is with their own podcasts. I'm a podcast listener. I'm guessing since you're listening to this podcast, you are too. And I have been getting ready for my Mexico City trip by listening to Babbel's conversational podcasts. There's a short conversation you listen to, then an instructor talks you through what happened, and then you listen again, and then you catch everything when you listen that second time. There's also a great read-along transcript, too, which I love. The one I did today was with Maria and Carmela trying to make dinner plans, but Carmela is so busy. She's way too busy with work and yoga, but finally they agreed on brunch on Saturday. Studies from Yale, Michigan State, and other universities continue to prove that Babbel works. One study found that using Babbel for 15 hours is equivalent to a full semester at college. So let's get more of you talking in a new language. Babbel is gifting CityCast listeners 60% off subscriptions at babbel.com/CityCast. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/CityCast. Spelled BABBEL.com/CityCast. Babbel.com/CityCast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Lowe's knows that free is just better. That's why MyLowe's Rewards is free to join. As a member, you earn points towards MyLowe's money on eligible purchases, get exclusive free gifts, and earn free shipping at Silver Key status, all on top of weekly member-only deals. Don't wait. Join MyLowe's Rewards for free today and start saving more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
So let's get to the harder part, which were the challenges of taking a motel from what I believe to be somewhere in the mid-1950s and bringing it not only in the 21st century, but suitable to the needs of what you do best for these folks. So how'd that challenge work out?
There was many bumps and bruises along the way because also, we came to learn, right? Housing and support services is our wheelhouse. So we had to learn what kind of zoning you had to change it to. If you keep it in motel zoning and operations, then that changes what we have to do. And funny enough, we still have people who don't realize that we're no longer the Safari Motel, who still walk in and go like, "Can I get a room?" We're like, it's a different deal now, right? So it's like, it's a different deal. But so we had to learn that. And then, of course, to be safe and secure, we had to add things to it, sprinkler systems, locking gate in case we need to, close down to make it more private. You had to have ADA units, of course, for our individuals with disabilities who need accommodations. We needed to make sure that not only the units were up to par, but common space is super important, right? When you're running a program, you want to have classes and meetings and support groups and therapeutic activities. So we actually started talking to our partners out in the community about what they could add to this motel. And the Venetian was the first to set up. They created a community garden there that was never part of the motel, right? Community garden, make sure that the washer and dryer situation is enough for as much turnover as we were going to have. So we really did, fit it to what we were trying to go for. And we have to give it credit to, like I said, the county who just let us say what we needed. And then also the owner of the property who agreed to renovate it for us according to those specs.
One quick question. Do people have to pay to live there?
No.
It's all free for them?
Mm-hmm. It's all free for them. There is no cost to enter into the program, but part of our therapeutic community is once you have secured income, they pay program rent, but it's a very small portion of their income, and it all goes back to their own supplies because that therapeutic community model and that therapeutic tool we know is really what sets them up for success, right? Like once you can do for yourselves, we want them to feel like that's a privilege to pay for their own supplies and their own program materials, right?
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. I want to take it in a different direction for a second. I know that neighborhood pretty well, and just honestly, it has seen better times around where the Safari Motel exists. I'm wondering, has that been a different sort of challenge? As we look at this as maybe a potential for other places, not every neighborhood is excited about welcoming transitional housing into their corner of the city. So how do you fit in there in that part of downtown Vegas? And what's your take on neighborhoods fostering these sort of projects?
Yeah, that is something to definitely take a look at. We have not experienced any pushback from becoming the new kid on the block. We had a lot of support from Councilwoman Diaz, so that helped a lot, helping welcome us into her ward. There's an empty lot right next to us, and it's almost like this is what actually happens. And initially people think like, who are you bringing in here, right? But then
Yeah.
the nature of how our programs operate, it's a fully functioning, lively, safe, secure space. It actually adds to the community feel in that area, I think. We become real good neighbors, basically, because then we're staffed 24/7. Everybody that is coming in, we're vouching for, right? So it's a lot more controlled, in my opinion, of how some operations could go or when it was shuttered, right? So it's actually a plus in the end.
And I appreciate the shout out to Las Vegas City Councilwoman Olivia Diaz. This project is a county project, but it is in the jurisdiction of the city of Las Vegas.
Yes.
But I also noticed, as helpful as Councilwoman Diaz may or may not have been, the city of Las Vegas is not a partner in this endeavor. So, real talk, Shalimar, why is the city passing, or did they pass on a chance to actually be a partner in a project like this?
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I think partner depends on how we define that in terms of supporting it and still welcoming it. She did still have a role in saying yes or no to who was going to go in there. In fact, I got a little bit of a heads up that she had given a few no's to other folks trying to use that property. And then we got the yes. So I was happy about that. But they are not a partner in terms of funding. Exactly. That is true. So the county is 100% funding it. And then it became the county and the city talking about, we're going to do this county project in the city limits. So, can we be partners at that level? And that's how we went forward.
Do you think this bodes well for future partnerships with the city getting involved with the county? Because like you said, there have been a lot of no's, and we've talked about them on this podcast in the past. And so I was very pleased to see a yes here. Is that a one-off, or you think that there's a newfound partnership potential?
I hope so. I mean, yeah, we haven't run into any problems. They've been so supportive. And it's a very replicable model, actually. So I would like to think that this is good proof that this type of thing can happen. This type of partnership can lead to this.
Well, there's so many of these vintage motels right in that area. Do you foresee, or is there any discussion that you could tell us about where other motels, now that we're 2 years in, are thinking about doing the same thing?
There's no formal discussions in the works, so I'll debunk that myth now. But I would be lying to you if I didn't. If I told you that I haven't walked those properties to already scope out how many potential units could go in them. Big time dream. And we have seen great success in the Betterment Project already. One of our dreams is to, you could literally take over that row of motels right there in succession, and then have a little bit of a campus there, and see, bigger numbers of housing.
Yeah, I understand that you obviously have to have arrangements or agreements with the people who own those properties. And it's my understanding that the estate of Tony Hsieh owns a lot of those motels over there. Are you or anyone that you know talking with them about maybe donating or helping out the community with those properties that have just been shuttered for I'm going to say at least a decade?
I know. I believe we did actually broach that topic with the county, and also broach some other topics about, whether they could be donated or even purchased on our behalf, right? Then we have that asset then where there's not like a sort of middle person anymore, that could be really helpful. But we haven't moved in that direction just officially yet.
Okay, so now we're 2 years into it, and the Betterment Project's funding is up for renewal. I know your organization has the great reputation for keeping tight records and doing good work. So how did you do on this project?
Yeah. So, yes, we're just finishing our second full year. It'll be this month. February 24th was the anniversary of when our first clients moved in. So, we're still wrapping up this year's numbers. But after the first year, we were really happy with the success. Now, you have to remember also, you have to ramp up into these things, right? Everybody has to understand. I remember the first couple community-wide meetings, you have to keep reminding people that we're open, because we're just not in the inventory list, right? Of where people normally refer them to. So once we got over that learning curve and that referral system, then it started moving. Then we did some more innovative outreach to make sure we could take groups of people at a time, right? You don't have to send us 1 or 2 a day. You could send batches of people, because it was brand spanking new and just move everybody in. So
Yeah.
after the first year, we saw 125 clients in that year, which was really good. And 65% of those clients exited to their own permanent housing, including
Wow. Wait,
71% with income. Yes,
that's a big number,
that
Shalimar.
is a big number,
Let's
right?
celebrate that for a second here.
Yeah, thanks.
Is that normal for these transitional housing to hit that kind of number? Is that the number you were seeing with your vets too when you
It is
had?
about the number we're seeing with our vets, about 65 to 70%. And I will tell you that it's a model that we're really proud of. That actually is a higher than the federal expectation of how many will move out into permanent housing at a
Yeah.
time. I think it's usually about 60% is what's targeted. So 65% after the first year, we were really proud of. And we really think it works because it's just all of the coupling of supportive services all the way through and help literally from day one. We're already working with you on transitioning out to permanent housing. Everything is, just in that vein of every group or class or conversation you're having. So when we decided to become the lead agency, we also said, but we want to bring other partners into the mix for this project, right? Who are not veteran specific to bring to the table what they do and then really consider it a community project. So currently our partners are Help of Southern Nevada, who have one full-time employee on the site who has an office, who connects regularly with the individuals for training, employment leads, resume coaching, right? All of that initiative to get them back into the workforce. We're getting their independence by rejoining the workforce.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Just One Project is joining us as our newest partner. They're going to be providing housing specialist services.
Right. Now, you mentioned that 65% permanent housing rate, which, again, very impressive. But what other metrics are important to you in judging the success of this kind of program?
So two other ones. We want them to exit to permanent housing, of course, and we want them to have their own income when they do that. 71% exited with income, right? We don't want them to recur back to homelessness. So whatever the conditions we can create to help them succeed out there and never have to recur back into the system, that's the goal. So leaving with income is one measure of that. And so because that's so important to us, we also watch for the retention rate. We're tracking how many of them are actually coming back into the system. So tracking permanent housing retention, and 73% of those who left and after that first year actually maintained their permanent housing. So we're really happy about that.
Oh, an even higher number. Well, Shalimar, what happens to the folks who don't get into that permanent housing? What's their fate after they've done your program?
Yeah, sometimes they choose to go on their own somewhere that maybe is not a permanent housing situation that we've referred them to. They might resolve back to staying with friends or family. So it's not necessarily a negative, but it's not their own permanent housing. That is how we're tracking that. Some, a very small percentage though, leave on their own and we lose touch. So we don't know what happens. We always try to tighten that up to make sure we can track them. But in some cases, it's that way too.
I get it. And looking back at the numbers in retrospect, as you're looking forward to the future, where do you think there's the biggest need to maybe recalibrate or adjust to get your numbers even better?
Yeah, well, I think two things. On the front end, I think that we as a community are going through some recalibrating. That's a good word I use. I think always having that, steady flow of those who are eligible to come in, just having access to us faster is something we want to see improve. And, that's why we added now this new position of housing specialist, rather, so that they can already start working with us and our clients from the beginning of assessing them for what type of housing is appropriate. I think that was a recalibration.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes, it's really a lot of focus on the employment side, and then 90 days is coming up, and now we're going to start talking to landlords, right? Now we can do that because there's one full-time person just dedicated to that seamless transition out to permanent housing. That's another recalibration. I think something else we were trying to do is to provide more support services right there at the site. So one thing we're looking at is connecting with private therapists for counseling for our clients who might need that, and come in and bring external partners onto the site to teach more groups and classes, more volunteer base. Now we've been around 2 years, like we've got it going. So there's definitely room for more people to get involved. All of those things are a part of getting more stable and going into the future.
Well, Shalimar Cabrera, I really appreciate, first of all, your efforts on behalf of this very important topic, but also coming on CityCast Las Vegas and sharing it with us. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And that's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. If you enjoyed the show, please go tell a friend. You could also rate our show, leave us a review. We read them all, and subscribe to our morning newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Till then, stay lucky.